Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly, episode 49. The episode that almost didn't happen. There's a reason for that. I'll get into that in a moment. So I'm going to talk a bit about the Wii U and the 3DS eShops, as well as recommend some Wii U things that I think you should pick up if you haven't already. I've got a pickup. I got a couple pickups, actually. We're going to talk about Street Fighter 6, Capcom Fighting Collection, and Soul Hackers 2. A bunch of trailers that dropped last Sunday night. And then last but not least, going to be Super Smash Bros. Wildcat JF Edition, the third installment of my roster changes, and will also be the last time I'm going to feature that project on Levels Plus Weekly, because it's going to get very long, detailing new characters, stages, music, assist trophies, items, blah blah blah. So that's going to become its own show. So this will be the last time it's featured in this show. So let's explain what I was talking about with the tech. So one of the new things I got, two monitors now. Isn't that exciting? So I got this big old 31.5 inch monitor. It's 4K ready. It has speakers. It's fantastic. It resolved so many of my problems. I'm really excited to have it. But with that came a little bit of technical figuring out. I haven't used OBS with the new monitor, so I was recording stuff earlier in the week, trying to not have so much to record today, and I wasn't getting any video. So I spent a good hour or so trying to figure out what happened, but it works now. You can see me. But what made me discover this is I've decided to update all of the various video frames that I have. So this will now be the new Levels Plus Weekly look, which also works for the PC screen. I did record the trailers, and I did record the Smash Brothers piece earlier. Didn't have video issues, but I was food poisoned. So just as an FYI, I will not be as energetic in those segments because I was not feeling good. But I feel better now, thankfully. So the other thing I picked up, I know we're just kind of bouncing around, but that's just the nature of how I'm feeling today, is the Omega Edition of King of Fighters 15 for the PS5. Unfortunately, I ordered this and pretty much had committed to it by the time the news came out that this one has the worst input lag, even when you're not playing online. So I'm hoping that SNK will fix that by the time I actually get a PS5, because I really want to play it and not feel like I'm moving in molasses. It came with 2 soundtrack discs, mostly the team themes and some other music. It came with a nice little art book. The art book's interesting. It does have a little bit of concept art for like the main visual, and like for Isla and Dolores. But generally speaking, it kind of just does this. So their characters render, their colors, the sketch that they've been showing on Twitter, and a little character profile. But for like the characters that were announced more recently, like Elizabeth, who was the last character released, there is no sketch. So clearly this book was published before all the art was done. It came in this nice box with Iori. It's pretty sick looking, I have to say. And it also came with some lithographs. So one of them is currently hanging up on my wall, but there's a Iori one, there's a Mai one that I'm not going to really show because it is Mai doing Mai things, and if you know Mai, you know what those Mai things are. The other one is of Terry and Joe eating some food in an alleyway, and I think that it's very KOF. Let's move into the Wii U 3DS discussion. And we'll start with the 3DS. The 3DS I had first. I got it with Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. I've downloaded a few things onto it. I still have adequate collections, mostly mostly Dragon Quest and Fire Emblem games at this point. But I've had a lot of joy with this console. Link Between Worlds is fantastic, one of the best games in the Zelda series. Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia are both superb examples of Fire Emblem and stand as the second and third best games in the series. Wonderful, 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 wonderful games. Absolutely adore those. Dragon Quest VIII's definitive version is on the 3DS. Highly recommend that. You get 2 extra characters, extra story content, more voice dialogue, some refinements to the gameplay, no more random battles except on C, just streamlining a lot of the things that kind of held Dragon Quest VIII PS2 up a little bit, so that's a wonderful game. NES Remix, Ultimate NES Remix, I think is what they called it. That's a great little arcadey short gameplay experience where there's a whole bunch of classic NES games totally remixed, and some of them are even remixed with other games. So you get like Mario doing stuff in Zelda and Zelda doing stuff in Mario. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend that. That one I actually got for free, oddly enough. The Alliance Alive. You can get that on the Switch, but I still think that there's something more charming about it on the 3DS with the less impressive visuals. That chibi art style blown into like HD just isn't as nice looking. But that game's got wonderful gameplay, a wonderful soundtrack, some really cool environments to explore. I really enjoy the Alliance Alive a lot. But we'll get more into 3DS like recommendations I think next week, because I don't want to spend too long on this episode just going over that. We're going to go over the Wii U. The Wii U this time. So, the Wii U was Nintendo's most unfortunate system outside of the Virtual Boy. But even with that, I think the Wii U is the most unfortunate system Nintendo's put out, because it was marketed poorly. Because it was called the Wii U, people that didn't follow game news super closely expected it to be an expansion on the Wii console they already had. So they thought they would get this pad, probably, that would go with their old Wii console, and not realize that, no, it's an entirely new thing. And that, why is it so expensive? So, it was Nintendo's biggest misfire, certainly in the last 20 years, because I think the Virtual Boy was about 25 years ago at this point. Just absolutely missed the mark. And it's unfortunate because it has some of Nintendo's best work, which thankfully the majority of it has been moved to the Switch. But there's still a few exclusives that are definitely worth checking out on the system. The 2 Zelda HD remakes for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, excellent. Probably the best way to play both of those games. Xenoblade Chronicles X is still stranded on the Wii U. And I don't know if Monolith Soft's going to come back around to do anything with it, because X is the odd one. It's the one that decided to do something outside of the realm of 1, which 2 returned to, and now 3 is kind of in the middle of those 2 games. So it's kind of unfortunate that X is just kind of stuck out there in the abyss. So hopefully before the Switch ends, Monolith Soft will port that over as well. But I have really thinned my Wii U collection down because so much of it has ended up on the Switch. Like Mario Kart 8, the definitive version on the Switch. Super Mario 3D World, definitive edition on the Switch. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, definitive version on the Switch. Zelda Breath of the Wild is the one I did not upgrade because I already had it. But Hyrule Warriors, definitive editions on the Switch. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, definitive versions on the Switch. Pokken Tournament, the definitive versions on the Switch. In some ways, Smash Ultimate is a major upgrade. It's not 4.5 as some people used to refer to it, but it definitely is an evolution of what Wii U built, and it is a much better game. Splatoon 2, again, it's a sequel to Splatoon, but it carries over a lot of the same content, it carries over a lot of the same gameplay, and 2 is better. So there's only a couple other games that I haven't mentioned, like Paper Mario Color Splash, like Pushmo, and a couple of those games. Nintendo Land, which will probably never get ported. They're bringing Wii Sports to the Switch now, so Wii Sports Club is basically pointless. So yeah, there's just there in terms of what's still original to the Switch outside of getting into digital stuff. There's not a lot. There's not a lot left. So I still have my Wii U, obviously, or I wouldn't be lugging this big old pad around. But I do have a couple Virtual Console recommendations for you if you haven't got them. And there's a couple that I need to get, and I'll probably be attempting to do that in the next few months. Because basically the biggest loss for these two systems, in my opinion, is the Virtual Console. A lot of the games that were indies have moved to the Switch or to other platforms, but the Virtual Console is not coming back. Nintendo has basically moved to the subscription model, having games hosted on the Switch Online apps as their means of resurrecting their retro content. And you don't own that. You don't own the games in that case. So if you are like me and you want to have some semblance of physical ownership over some Nintendo games, getting onto the Wii U and 3DS eShops now is going to be the best way to do that with digital content, because Nintendo will likely not release this stuff physically or even digitally for purchase at this point, because I think they have found that it is more lucrative for them to slowly, and I mean slowly, upload new content to the apps. What are the 10 things that I am going to recommend to you? So we'll take my face off of here for a second. So the first one is Gargoyle's Quest 2, The Demon Darkness. You can get this on the Wii U or the 3DS. Capcom has kind of not done much on the NES side of things on the Switch Online apps, and this is one of their later NES games that's really good. I highly recommend checking out this game. It's a prequel of sorts to Demon's Crest, which is on the Switch Online apps for the Super Nintendo. It's really, really good. And this is a big one. Super Mario RPG. Square-Enix has yet to show up on the Switch Online app. And this is probably one of the biggest omissions in terms of the Super Nintendo that's still missing, and especially from Nintendo themselves. So until Nintendo and Square Enix cooperate, we're not going to see this. And it's such a disappointment because it's a wonderful game. And so you can buy it on the Wii U, and I want to say the 3DS might have it too. I don't follow that as much because I never got a new 3DS. But this is definitely one to check out if you haven't and you like RPGs, because this is a phenomenal game. I need to replay it myself. I got to the Axel Rangers and just got stuck on the original cart, and I sold that. So I would like to revisit it. I have it on my Super Nintendo Mini, so I'm not really feeling the urge to buy it on the Wii U as well, but definitely want to recommend this one to you if you haven't played it and you are remotely interested in role-playing games and or Mario games. And it also has a wonderful soundtrack by Yoko Shimomura. Alright, next up is probably the game I'm going to recommend to you the most. Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. This is an amazing strategy RPG for the Nintendo 64. The best RPG on that system. practically the only one that really matters outside of Paper Mario, and is easily worth the $10 you would pay for it, because buying it physically, unless you get it from Japan, is going to cost you an arm and a leg. So I love this game. I actually have bought it for the Wii U because I want to play it in the near future again. And while I have the N64 game, I don't have a way to play N64 titles on any of my TVs or monitors right now. So I'm looking forward to getting back into this game because it is so good and it's so unique. That's the thing I really want to stress about Ogre Battle 64, is how unique it is. And Square-Enix only released 2 games on the Virtual Console on the Wii U outside of Japan. Ogre Battle 64 and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. That's it. So I don't expect this to come to the Switch Online app, and it is just a travesty that I even have to say that sentence. Get this game if you have a Wii U, because it is excellent. Alright, next is Harvest Moon 64. Arguably the best game in the franchise, and it is on the Wii U. This game is not cheap to get. I had to pay a bit to get my copy. So $10 is extremely reasonable if you've ever wanted to try out Harvest Moon and see what it's about. This has been referred to as like the pinnacle, and it looks very charming. It doesn't have a lot of bloat. Probably the biggest issue with it is the fact that I think you're just stuck playing as a boy. I don't think you get the option to choose your gender at the start. But this is a wonderful, cute, charming little game, and definitely worth checking out. It is possible it could come to the Switch. Natsume has collaborated with NES and Super Nintendo games, but we don't know if they're going to. As of right now, the N64 lineup that we know that is coming, this is not on there. Alright, one more N64 game for the road, and that is Bomberman 64. Probably my favorite Bomberman game. I obsessed over this game as a kid. It's a bit of an action platformer in an isometric perspective, but it also has the series' iconic battle mode, and it's a lot of fun. I remember spending a lot of hours playing this as a kid. It made me really happy to see this come to the Wii U. And it's possible Konami will cooperate and bring stuff to the N64, but as of right now, they're not officially on there, so definitely worth checking this one out before it's gone. Alright, a couple Game Boy Advance games, and we'll start with Metroid Zero Mission. One of the best Metroid games. I would say it's 4th best after Super, Dread, and Prime. It's a superb remake of the original game. The biggest issue I have with it is what you just saw. Giant Kraid in the original Metroid makes no sense. It kind of ruins the surprise of Super Metroid. But outside of that, and maybe being a little bit too technical on some of the unlocks, this is a excellent game and one of the best examples of the Metroid formula. Highly recommend checking it out. Metroid Fusion is another one I'm going to recommend. Big shock. I don't like Fusion as much as the other 4 that I listed. In fact, I would probably list Echoes above Fusion. But Fusion is a solid game. That's not to take anything away from it. It's just a little bit more directed, and it's really difficult. It's probably the hardest Metroid game outside of Dread. In fact, I would even argue that it's harder than Dread at some points. But it definitely has its own feel and its own flavor, and the SAX is one of the most chilling gameplay moments I've ever had in a game. So I have it. I highly recommend you check it out. One more Game Boy Advance game, and it's Fire Emblem, the original one. Sacred Stones is kind of like, if I was doing 11 of these, Sacred Stones would be here too, but I'm not. But I love this game. It introduced me to the franchise. It has Lyn. Lyn is one of my favorite characters in all of games. I'm so excited to have that statue coming of her. Just look how cool she is. I love the sprite animation in these games. The story is not as good as the later games. Awakening, Echoes, and Three Houses take it to lunch in terms of story and localization quality. But the gameplay is still solid. The art's great. Has a nice GBA soundtrack, arguably one of the best ones. So I'm just going to say, if you are interested in Fire Emblem at all, pick this up and consider Sacred Stones as well. Alright, to wrap up, we got 2 Wii games. So these are a little bit more expensive, and Zack and Wiki, Barbarossa's Treasure. I actually forgot this got ported to the Wii U, but this is a very charming puzzle game that Capcom put together. It's got a very cartoony style and a very goofy vibe, which is really, really nice. This trailer is extremely old, so this was even before some of the characters had their final names. So Charlie Bell is actually Wiki. But as we can see here, this is really just a lot of plot exposition. Let's actually get to some gameplay. So you wander around with the Wii pointer, you tell Zack where to go, and then you can interact with the environment like this, push stuff over. You have to deal with enemies, but in using Wiki's bell, you're able to transform them into tools. It's a really cool game. I will say that it gets really hard. And it has very little, forgiveness. And that's the biggest issue that's with the game, is that if you're not careful and really methodical, you might end up having to redo a huge amount of gameplay to get to the end. But despite that, I think it's a really good game and definitely worth at least looking into if you like puzzle games, adventure games, and have always wondered what Capcom's take on the franchise, on a genre like this would be. Nightmare's coming. Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition is the best playing way to experience Resident Evil 4. You can certainly get better looking versions of Resident Evil 4. Will not deny that. And the VR edition is a very unique and wild take on this game, but it's basically built from the ground up. This game uses the Wii Remote better than any other game on the Wii, in my opinion. So you can use it to aim, you can use it to slash, you can use it to get through the various QuickTime events. But it is just the best way to play the game because the shooting feels so good in Wii Edition. It also includes all of the PS2 content, so you'll get the Ada campaign separate ways, as well as the extra costumes. You will not. It doesn't look all that great now. One must be honest. There's HD versions of the game that does have all the content, but it just doesn't feel as good to play. And unfortunately, the Switch version of the game didn't incorporate gyro. So it's in my opinion, it's worth buying this if you don't have it already. Really, it's that good to play. All right, welcome back. We've got some announcements to cover. Capcom ended their Capcom Cup for the year with 2 big fighting game announcements. One a collection, one a sequel, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But look at this artwork. Isn't it gorgeous? This is for the Capcom Fighting Collection Deluxe Edition in Japan, which thankfully is just adding Street Fighter 30th Anniversary to the package and putting a slipcase around them both. So I don't feel obligated to deal with that. But this art's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. I'm pretty sure this is the same artist that did the tarot cards for Street Fighter V that were just amazing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it really does remind me of their style. Anyway, let's start with Soul Hackers 2. because Atlas also dropped an announcement last night. Now, I did watch a little bit of it, and then remembered that I can't have my speaker on while I'm recording because the mic will pick it up and what you hear. So, I will not have the sound. I will say that the music was a banger, what I heard of it. So yeah, Soul Hackers 2, the sequel to the original Soul Hackers, which came out on the Saturn in the 90s, and then had a remake of sorts on the 3DS, if I remember correctly. And this is a whole new sequel that definitely looks more Persona. But it does have a very strong separation from that. It just has that really heavily anime-influenced look that Persona now has dominated the series with. But it looks fantastic. This is not coming to Switch. This is PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series, if I remember correctly. But it looks great. I love the character with the size design a lot. I think she looks fantastic. And you are a woman. Your protag is a woman. Thank God. We need more of that coming out of Japanese RPGs, because it doesn't happen often enough. But so far, everything I've seen, this looks pretty good. Like, I'm kind of hype about this. Now, the downside is that it is Atlas, and Atlas does have issues when it comes to women in their games. In a lot of ways, still, gender's just not their strong suit, so I can't say I am immediately like, I'm going to buy this, but I am intrigued by it, and would like to know more about it. So, good on them for making a very stylish looking game. And I think this is, yeah, it's August. So, cool beans. And here's a little bit of extra stuff right at the end. I do like the logo too. The logo's pretty solid. Yeah, there you go. Also Xbox One and Steam. I always forget PC because I never think about it. Alright, so let's take a quick look at Capcom Fighting Collection. So this was what they led off with, and you know, it was after Capcom Cup, just looking at it, and everyone was like, Street Fighter, and then all of a sudden you see like Leo. Leo was the first one that I noticed. But all of a sudden, we get Darkstalkers characters and Cyberbots characters and like Chibi characters. And so this includes all 5 versions of Darkstalkers, 1, 2, and the 3 versions of 3, which is incredible because the alternate versions of 3 were never really localized in any way before this. They did appear, I think, on Capcom's Darkstalkers PSP set. But then Cyberbots is also here. Wonderful game. But Red Earth is the other big shocker. Red Earth has never been released at home before. So that's really rad. And then we're going to get 3 more games on top of these 7, which was already a pretty stacked collection. But we're getting Hyper Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or Hyper Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition, I forget what they called it, yeah. Which basically combines all of the Street Fighters into one package for the first time. We're getting Pocket Fighter, or as they're referring to it here, Super Gym Fighter Mini Mix, because apparently Pocket Fighter is something they just don't refer to anymore. And Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, the original one. So, honestly, this collection, for what it is spectacular. It's throwing together the Darkstalker series, an all-in-one set. We're getting Red Earth, we're getting Hyper Street Fighter 2. Pocket Fighter and Super Puzzle Fighter are really well-loved games. And Cyberbots is just an awesome fighting game that's really underrepresented. There's a whole bunch of extra material. There's like over 500 pieces of concept art, music, being able to save mid-game, rollback netcode and online for all 10 games. Training mode for everything except Puzzle Fighter. It's honestly long overdue that we're getting a Capcom collection that actually could have decent online, and this is a great set. I mean, it captures just about every 2D game outside of Capcom Fighting Evolution, which they will probably never re-release, and the Marvel games, and the JoJo games, all in one thing. And honestly, they will do those separately if they were to do that. So my hope is that this is the start of another fighting collection of the 3D games, because I would love to see the 2 Rival Schools games, the 2 Star Gladiator games, the 2 Power Stone games come together with like the Capcom Fighting All-Stars beta that we never got. And, you know, if they managed to work it out with Eureka, get the Street Fighter EX games, that'd be a pretty cool set even without the EX games or the beta. So this is dope. I keep saying dope in videos, I don't know why. And last but not least, the star of the show, the reveal of Street Fighter 6. Pushing that RE engine. My god, this looks incredible. Although someone, I think I was watching Maximilian's stream, and someone joked that Ryu looks like Chris, and he kind of does. But this is very short. Luke in his Street Fighter 6 style, this really cool graphic effect. But that's about all we're going to get. But it's definitely going to be a stunner in terms of impressions, and we're going to get more information in the summer. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for all 3 of those in some extent, but the Capcom Fighting Collection is definitely the one that's got me pumped. So, because it's coming to Switch, and really, really happy Capcom is continuing collections right now. I do hope that at some point we'll see what they've been cooking up for Capcom Arcade Stadium, because there's supposed to be more games coming to that as well. So hopefully we'll see something soon on that too. But yeah, I'm glad the countdown wasn't for something that was completely unexciting. like Resident Evil Reverse or another Dead Rising game, because I would not be enthused about that. Alright, let's cat intermission our way into the Smash Brothers Wildcat GF edition and try to wrap that up this episode. Alright, friends, welcome back to Super Smash Brothers Wildcat JF edition. We're going to wrap up the bottom 3 rows of changes I would like to make to the roster. And we're officially into Wii U, 3DS, and Ultimate characters at this point. And so there probably won't be a ton of changes I would make. Because I feel like, in contrast to the earlier games, that movesets are a lot better defined. So we'll probably zip through this fairly quickly. So Palutena, her moveset is basically all from Uprising or Made Up. So I don't really have a whole lot of preference. I do like the choices that Sakurai and his team made about narrowing her 12 move options that she originally had in Wii U 3DS down to the 4 she has in Ultimate. It makes her a little bit unique, so she's not verbatim like some of the other characters could be. So I don't really have any changes for her. Other than I want her to actually be on screen for her final smash. I've always thought that was a little weird. that she just zooms away, because it kind of takes away from the impact. And I think that there's some cool stuff that they could do with her in the background, like they did originally with Pit's Final Smash and Brawl, where she's in the background. That would just make that more interesting looking. Pac-Man. Pac-Man is just a interesting character already. And honestly, the only change I would have had was his Final Smash, but they changed it into something that I think makes sense. It still is Super Pac-Man, but it's more logical. So, I don't think I have any changes for him that are not aesthetic. Maybe some more Namco cameos in the taunt. Robin. Robin's another character who I feel is pretty solid. They're very dynamic with using all their tomes. And that they have a limit like they do in the game that he's from, or she's from. And the Levin Sword also is another factor of durability. So I think Robin is a solid character. I have nothing I think I really would change. And since I've booted Chrom out of the game, it makes sense for the Final Smash to still have him in it. So Shulk. Shulk got a lot of great changes in Ultimate in contrast to Wii U that makes him a lot more fun to play. And he is effectively the distilled version of his Xenoblade form. Only change I'm going to make is to his Final Smash, and that's because I'm removing a character for reasons you will see. So I'm going to put Sharla in the place of the character I'm taking out. Because I can do that. Sorry, Ryan, it's not your time. Bowser Jr. I loathe the Final Smash that final Bowser Jr. has, and I want to get rid of it desperately. I do think that Shadow Mario makes sense. I do think that using the paintbrush makes sense, but I don't want it to be on the screen. I think we're going to turn it into a cinematic, and it's going to be like, maybe we can evoke Petey Piranha since Piranha Plant is out. But the paintbrush will still be used. But I think that we'll have Bowser Jr. or a Koopaling run it across the ground to Shadow Mario. Petey Piranha will come out, do the same thing that it did for Piranha Plant, and then dive back into the goo. And anyone that's caught in the goo will be trapped in the cage and go through that animation. So there we go. Resolve that problem. Duck Hunt is perfect. There is nothing Duck Hunt needs. Other than maybe a reference to Gumshoe. I think that it might be cute to maybe have his second jump be him flashing and the shot of the zapper happens and then he jumps again. I think that would be cute. We'll do that. We'll do that for another little nod to a Zapper classic that didn't get any props at all in Wii U or Ultimate. Ryu. There's something about Ryu that I just cannot get into in Smash. I don't exactly know what that is, because I love Terry, and Terry's almost the same type of character. He has inputs. He has special moves that have variance depending on how, if you do the motion or just do the buttons. But there's just something about the way Ryu handles in Smash that makes him kind of clunky. So there's got to be some like modifications, like having Hurricane Kick travel a little farther, or the Shoryuken travel a little higher, so that way he's just not as grounded. Another thing I want to do with Ryu is I think that I think it would be cool to have him become Evil Ryu somehow. And I'm not entirely sure how to trigger that, but I think that it's something that would be a reference to the Marvel games, because he was able to turn into Akuma in Marvel vs. Capcom. And he's never really been able to just transform into Evil Ryu in anything, and I think that would be a really cute nod to that part of his legacy, and then he would have like a completely different moveset.
So I'm thinking of trying to implement that into the game somehow. Maybe as like you hold down a taunt for a while or something, and it will switch at the cost of a final smash meter. And then he would have Akuma specific or Evil Ryu specific variants of the Shinku Hadouken, and then Shungokutsu Satsu as like the close-up version. The other thing I want to change about Ryu is I want to change his Shinku Hadouken in both forms. So I want the Shinku Hadouken to be a beam and not a big fireball, because I want to lean into that versus aspect and make him just a little bit more exciting. Because Terry got that. Got that little extra oomph to his moves, and I think Ryu deserves that too. So I'm hoping that those will make Ryu a little bit more fun. Cloud. I don't think I have any changes for Cloud, because I think that his limit break system is fantastic, and it works really well with everything that he's got going on. And his Final Smash is great. His Advent Children Final Smash is great, and I think that will stick around. But I think Cloud is solid. I don't think I have anything I want to change about him. Bayonetta is kind of the same deal. I would want to have her Bayonetta 3 look in the game, but that's an aesthetic thing. So I think Bayo's going to be about the same. Inkling, however, I do have some thoughts. So Inkling has their basic gun B, which I think was fine. Has a roller, which I think is fine. And then has Bomb, which I think is fine. And then Squid Jump, which I think is fine. So the specials are all good. And I think that using some of the equipment for Smashes is also great. I feel like Inkling needs to have a different Final Smash, though. And there's a reason for that. Because I'm going to be using that elsewhere. So Inkling is going to get a new Final Smash. And I'm thinking it might be interesting to have a little nod to Splatoon 3 and have Inkling have the little crab tank special that is a cinematic. You wouldn't control the crab, but it would basically be like the crab would show up, and if you get hit by the crab materializing, then it would do a rapid fire, and then you would leap off of the tank and then do a splashdown or a Booyah Bomb. The Booyah Bomb would also be a fun one to do, because if that one you could actually tap the button to get Booyahs from your quote-unquote team. But yeah, I think otherwise, Inkling's pretty solid, but I do want to change the Final Smash a little bit. Ridley, I don't think I have any changes. I think that Ridley came into Smash the way he should have. He's a vicious character with a killer moveset that just screams out visceral combat. So I have nothing I would really want to change there. Simon Belmont. Now Simon has one issue that makes him hard to play. And that is ultimately his up B. The knife up B is not particularly great. It just doesn't cover enough verticality. And I understand that. They basically made Simon rely on the whip as a main means of return, which I think is a good idea. But I don't think it has enough flexibility in the air to pull that off appropriately. So instead of the up B that is there, I'm going to let his up B basically be a stopwatch that lets him aim his whip in any direction. So the stopwatch only applies to him. So he'll hold the stopwatch, he can spin the whip in any direction and then let go by letting go of the B button, and it'll go that way, and that should resolve that little bit of difficulty recovering and still keep it series specific. I also think that that's the only change I'd want to make to Simon. I think that he's an embodiment of classic Castlevania, and I love him. So that's the change I want to make, and I think that it's a lovely one. King K. Rool is again, he came into this game with a whole bunch of cool references and one of the best Final Smashes in the entire series, so I can't say I would change anything really about him. Isabelle. Isabelle needs a little bit more differentiation from our dear villager friend. And the special moves are mostly there. Just like the pocket, I think, is the one that overlaps, and the balloons. Because I think that she has the fishing pole, and she has another unique one that I can't remember right. Oh, she does a gyroid? She does the gyroid instead of a tree. So what I would like to change is I would like to incorporate a little bit more of New Horizons into her. So I think I want to have her like dash with using the stick that you use to jump over rivers. So that would just kind of give her like this little oomph, and it'd be kind of interesting because she'd be in the air while doing it. So it would kind of give her a short hop, which would be a different type of tool. Another thing that I think would be great for Isabelle to have is a ladder. Instead of using the balloons, that she would build a ladder and go up it while she was building it and then leap off because she ran out of crafting. I think that would be kind of cute. And she might be able to build a taller ladder if she has something in her pocket. So that's the type of thing I'm thinking for Isabelle. I also want to change her Final Smash. Because as cute as it was to build the city hall, it's basically the exact same thing as villagers. So what could we do for Isabelle? We're gonna have Dodo Air show up, and Isabelle's going to send off the fighter that gets caught by her her introductory animation, which I guess could be like a megaphone or something. I'm trying to think of another gadget that would work well, or like a party popper or something like that. And then like they get on the plane, they follow I think Wilbur's the one that pilots, or Orville, I can't remember. Whoever pilots the plane. Both of them will be there. One escorts them on the plane, the other one flies them off, and then it's a KO. Basically, because they're gone. They're going to get a new island life instead of being in Smash. I think that would be cute. I think that would be a really clever Final Smash that also plays into New Horizons really well. Because that's kind of how I'm looking at the differentiation between the two. Is that Villager's kind of more old school and Isabelle's a little bit more modern. Hero from Dragon Quest. I would probably throw in a few more random spells into the down B, but outside of that, I don't think I would make any changes. The Final Smash should have whoever the hero of 12 is, because by the time 12, or this game would come out, 12 would be more along the lines of completion. So I think 12, and I'm just going to refer to the hero of 12 as 12, would be in the Final Smash as well. But otherwise, I think Hero is a fantastic interpretation of Dragon Quest. So I have no changes beyond maybe more spells and adding 12 in. Banjo and Kazooie is such a lovely, lovely character. I love them. I think the only thing I would do is I would grant Banjo and Kazooie the option to use feathers to do more jumps, but it would take away from their feather meter. So they have that golden feather meter, so they have 5 of those per life. And I would think that they could then fly or get another jump at the cost of half of one of those feathers. So they could do 10 jumps or 5 Wonder Wings. And it would just kind of add a little bit extra complexity to using feathers, because that's such a key part of the original game. And I've been playing through the N64 version on the Switch recently, and just recently got that move, and it just was like, yeah, that would be kind of neat. Terry has a new Max Super, I don't remember what they call, like their final supers in King of Fighters right now. But in King of Fighters 15, but I do kind of love what they did with the triple whatever triple wolf, I think is what it's called. I think that's fantastic. So I think I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep Terry the same. Maybe update his look to be a little bit more like 15's, but he's so iconic in Smash. He's so well done. Byleth has pretty much the idealized moveset from Three Houses, in my opinion, using the 4 main weapon branches and them all being assigned to a button. The final smash is on point. I do think I would make the final smash just a little bit more cinematic and a little bit more wild than what it currently is. Maybe just add a little, like an extra 2-3 seconds of footage of Byleth whipping the sword around like they do when they use it in battle. But outside of that, Byleth is ideal. We're also going to lead in with the female version of Byleth instead of the male one, because I don't know why male Byleth is the default in Ultimate. He's not as popular. Min Min. I don't have anything for Min Min. I think how she works is as good as it can be for ARMS to translate over. And while I don't like playing as her, I do think that her moveset represents the series fairly well. The only thing I would do is attempt to make it more accessible and easy to figure out, but I don't really know how to do that, like, off the top of my head. So that would be where my focus is. I'd also make that last hit of her final smash a little bit more impactful. I feel like the gong noise is all that really gives any impact to that. And there's a character that's going to be removed from that final smash and will be replaced with another character. I'm trying to think. I don't want to give away anything. So let's just put, like, I think Lotta Pop, the clown character, we'll put her in there. Why not? Sephiroth. Sephiroth is pretty solid. I think he captures his Final Fantasy VII essence extremely well. I think I'm going to make him a little bit heavier, though. Because I feel like he's too light. And at times I feel like he just gets flown off stage really easy, and that just doesn't really match his persona. Pyra and Mithra. The only real thing about them that I want to change is Pyra's outfit. But moveset-wise, I don't think I would change anything. I love playing as them both. Alright. With that, we're done.
That was a jam-packed episode. Thank you so much for joining me today on this journey across the week. There was so much stuff that happened. I think next week I'll get more into the lost piece of the 3DS and Wii U shops going away, as well as some recommendations for the 3DS, and we'll do some other stuff. Oh, I know what we're going to do next week. We are going to get an exclusive preview of the Best of Levels Plus. We'll do that. That'll be fun. Have a wonderful week, my friends, and take care.